Good morning to all the people out there in the world, and welcome to Judging by the Cover, where we are going to review games that we have not played just to see how well they do at selling these games. Now, happy November, everybody. This is our month of bundles, and today we are looking at a developed in Indonesia bundle. So, I know last week might have come down a little hard on a bunch of games that were produced, presumably in Brazil or or from a studio that helps to promote and support Brazilian creators. And came down a little hard on those games. I feel like because a lot of them had a very distinct feel of ranging from looking like a mobile game to just straight up not looking worth the money, which that bundle was $2 for the bundle, but bundling together games that were like $10 at full price that I would never think to pay $10 for. Today, though, we're looking at Developed in Indonesia bundle, which comes with 4 games on Steam: A Day Without Me, Anuchard, Troublemaker, and Hello Goodboy. Now, I've taken a brief cursory look at these before we dive in for the in-depth stuff, and we're going to take a look at each of these games' description and screenshots. And already I can tell that these 4 games are drastically different from each other. And in some ways I like that as a factor in this look, in that you get a lot of variety for your buck if you were to go and look for a bundle like this. But on the other side of things, several different types of gamers might not always want to go for all those different kinds of games. Now, the price points of these games also vary a little bit. Day Without Me and Anuchard are $6 a piece. Then Troublemaker for 20, Hello Good Boy for 15. I believe, depending on the contents of the game, all of those prices may be like ranging from fair to more than fair. The Day Without Me and Anuchar do look like they offer quite a bit for that $6 price tag, especially being, stylish to the stylish pixel art or pixel graphics or drawn graphics style. Um, Troublemaker being a more of a 3D beat 'em up. And then Hello Good Boy, again, back to like the drawn or pixel style of graphics, but with a rich in-depth story behind it. Now, altogether, you would be spending $47, but at the time of recording this, they are on sale bundled together for 30. I know Hello Good Boy is on sale at this time, so I don't know if another one of these might be on sale, cranking into that. But let's go ahead and look into these. Like I said, there may be an upside and a downside to having such a drastic variety of the game in the bundle, where you get to try out a lot of different things. But at the same time, if any single one of these games aren't necessarily the kind of style you'd go for, it would probably just be worth it to skip that one and buy the games individually. So we'll see how that looks. So starting, we're going to look at A Day Without Me, which has you playing in an unknown city. We're going to go ahead and look at the screenshots first here. We start off with a very colorful look at an isometric city with what is very distinguishably a playground, a childhood playground. The character is running around again alone in the city. They're very clear to show that you are alone in this, exploring houses. It says that you're going to be solving some puzzles, so it looks like you're pushing some things around, exploring, figuring out what is going on, why you were left alone in the city. If there's some kind of an entity that is watching or chasing or threatening you. We see some interesting shots here, like fire coating the sidewalks, locking you into the street with all these car wreckages or stopped cars. A whole dark situation, a whole thing that looks like we got a freaking pentagram here, some kind of weirdness going on with that shit. Bloody handprints on the sidewalk. This whole psychedelic situation here. So whatever is going on in the city, whatever mystery it is you're supposed to be solving, it is it is something weird. We even see heads growing out of these garden plots. More fire going on. Like the screenshots don't really answer much. They just show you a lot of weird stuff happening, and it does kind of give me the whole thought of what is this? Like, what is going on? What's the mystery? They don't reveal too much, but they do show you a little bit in motion and in just the screenshots. So, what does the description say about this? We have you wake up. Oh, yeah, you wake up in a deserted city, the only one not to disappear. Everyone seems to have disappeared suddenly, leaving behind crashed cars, open houses, and their belongings. But you are not alone. There is something out there in this strange city, full of even stranger sights and events. Welcome to A Day Without Me, an isometric puzzle adventure game where you'll have to figure out how you were left as the lone survivor of a mass disappearance on Earth while trying to hold on to your sanity. Now, if the sanity actually shows as some kind of like meter or something that you have to manage, that's going to be an interesting little resource to work through with the game. I do kind of like the idea of sanity meters in games, like messing with the mechanics. A deep, complex story, figuring out the mystery behind the disappearance requires more than a straightforward playthrough. Pay attention to the environment, examine each object carefully, and watch out for strange clues that help you understand, even if they make no sense at first. A city to explore, the abandoned city has plenty of challenges and puzzles to solve, both in plain sight and hidden away. The semi open world makes playthroughs unpredictable and unique. And an eerie sight. A city without people has a haunting beauty to it, realized through a highly stylized art style that can change moment to moment as you delve deeper into the mystery and face mind bending challenges. Considering some of the visuals that they're showing, I'm not doubting the mind bending aspect of it. The screenshots and the little GIF images, they do show quite a bit going on with different like daytime, nighttime scenes, ominous fire situations, a whole lot going on. Nanda Game or Gamecom team here, they do show you just enough to kind of whet the appetite for this. So individually, this game is giving a pretty positive spin here, and with a $6 price tag, it's one that it's like, even if I were to buy this and be disappointed with it, it wouldn't have been a huge loss. Though it does show enough in there where I feel like, okay, you know what? I would definitely give this a go for $6. And that's the full price on it, not even counting any discount for the game itself or for the bundle. Moving on, we have Anuchard for our next game. Yet now, this is another one that angles into that stylized angle. Let's go ahead and jump into those screenshots. Now, the video trailers do show a little bit more, a little bit of action that gives it a bit of a Legend of Zelda kind of old isometric feel to it, where you're running around the world, fighting monsters, maybe solving some puzzles, and having some uh not gigantic bosses, but it does feel similar to like the old top-down view of Legend of Zelda or Bastion, for gamers that are familiar with titles like that. It gives that kind of feeling. In fact, Bastion might be a very good comparison here based on the description and everything that we'll get into. We have our main character wielding a bell of all things. This magic bell is your primary weapon while you're going around uh talking to people. You have all these rich, like painted looking environments with a stylized character that I feel like would fit into some modern indie scene alongside the likes of the knight and the princess from Hollow Knight. Maybe not the exact species, obviously, but it does kind of feel that way, where you have this simple character design in these environments that you're working through. We do see different kinds of block based or tile based puzzle layouts here while you're swinging. Apparently, you're playing the Ganon fight and bouncing back with a donut. So I guess you use your bell to bounce weapons back to these boss fights. It does show you your hit points in numbers, so that's kind of interesting instead of just seeing a life bar or hearts. We have all this kind of stuff, but it does seem to give you a bit more of a free motion, even though the obstacles do appear to be laid out in like a blocky grid format. All kinds of beaches and environments going on. Now, this game does give a lot of screenshots. There are 32 screenshots to this game. So I highly recommend, if this looks like the kind of game that would interest you, to go ahead and give it a shot yourself, or give a look on the Steam page for Anuchard. There are some of the screenshots, they do appear to be a little repetitive, but they do show slightly different moments and angles here for some of them. Um, but I do think that they could have cut down on some of the screenshots. We do see some cooking going on. You put ingredients in pots, a little bit like the modern Zeldas, where you try to get certain buffs based on what you eat while you delve into the dungeon. Probably, you go for certain buffs for your next run. More of this. Ooh, that's a lot of sweets. Like, you got this whole parfait, you got donuts and cookies all over the thing for the giant hungry spirit dude, I'm guessing. Just so much to go through for the screenshots. We're going to go ahead and move on from that. Like I said, I highly recommend checking out the screenshots yourself if the isometric pixel graphics does appeal to you. About the game will tell us. Anuchard, it was a well known. Oh, excuse me. It was well known as a place of wonder and peace, a land of limitless bounty, suspended in the heavens above. Five ancient guardians kept it safe from all harm until they turned on the kingdom and its denizens. The Anushardian paradise fell from the skies, crashing onto the surface of the world below. Again, that does feel a little reminiscent of some Zelda situations, or like I said, with the comparison of Bastion, of a fallen world and a fallen higher society kind of thing that's breaking apart. Only a tiny speck of an island survived the fall intact. The rest coalesced into a twisted mass of winding passages, wild magic, and vicious monsters, known simply as the dungeon. Somewhere within, five treasonous guardians lay asleep. Generations passed as the few survivors eked out an existence in the orchard, the sole village on the island, maintaining what little remains of the Enushardian magic. Farmers tend to the fields, scavengers try to pick the bones of the kingdom in the dungeon. All await the chosen one, the bell wielder, who will take up the Aldros bell, enter the dungeon and wake the guardians from their slumber and bring back the paradise lost. Return Anuchard to the heavens. Finally, you were judged worthy to take up the mantle of the bell wielder, and the dungeon awaits. I know I keep saying between with the Zelda, or no, the Bastion comparison, but I feel like based on this description, that seems like a very ample comparison here, especially, and considering that this is another $6 game, it might not have the kind of depth, or if I don't know if people consider Bastion to have a kind of replayability factor to it, but it does look like they offer quite a bit for that price tag for something that I'm hoping is a worthwhile similar experience to that, because I did enjoy Bastion when I played it. For everyone and everything, you are the bell wielder, and the Aldros bell is your best friend. Master the bell not just as a weapon, but as a vital tool for overcoming puzzles and obstacles. It's more than just a blunt instrument of mayhem. Use its knockback ability to smash enemies into obstacles, reposition them, and clear a way forward. So the combat is more than just a hack and slash. Like, they try to say that they want you to value positioning, and based on with the music, the trailer showed a kind of rhythm to your swings. So I'm wondering if, like, I don't know if the music is an actual mechanic to the game, but the swings went in time with the music at the beginning of one of the trailers. Use the bell to solve puzzles in the dungeon, launch projectiles, move puzzle pieces, and employ it creatively to progress. For Enter the Dungeon, there is a warped magical dungeon that houses the guardians you need to confront in order to restore the lost kingdom of Anushard. Brave the dangers of the dungeon, using the bell to knock around and defeat enemies that infest it. Face complex puzzles and solve them to unlock the deepest reaches of the dungeon. And finally, confront each of the five guardians and learn the truth of the Anuchard's fall and return the kingdom to its rightful place in the skies. They do show like you have some energy blasts going through through some of the barriers. So there's going to be some kind of looks like maybe color coordinated situation with this, this magic kingdoms that you're working with. Restoring Paradise. As the Bell Wielder, you are destined to restore Anuchard to the skies, but that doesn't mean you can't help Orchard on the way. Explore the dungeon to rescue the souls of lost villagers, returning them to Orchard through the ritual of revival. So there's going to be a lot of, bringing back what was lost. Each revived villager will contribute to your quest. Farmers, chefs, herbalists, all will help you and the village. Prepare for ever deeper ventures into the dungeon, cook up meals using ingredients provided by the orchard, and head into the fray. So it looks like they do have a little bit of a farming and cooking mechanic as a means of buffing your character to be ready for, harder runs, deeper runs into the dungeon, and all that. So they do give us a lot to work with here. Like I said, the trailers do show a fair amount in motion with setting the puzzles, traversing your environments, fighting decently sized boss monsters. We see them breaking through barriers and stuff while the game is a very reasonable price. Again, this is one that I would quite likely recommend to a lot of different kinds of players that like these pixel style situations compared to the games we were reviewing last week. It looks like you're going in for a full-blown game, especially for that $6 price. But this is a part of a bundle, so we still have two more games to look at. And next up, we have Troublemaker. Now, Troublemaker seems to be a bit of an interesting one. I had two initial thoughts seeing this game. My first thought was, wait, so this is like Bully, where you are, you're in a school and you're having to, deal with a little bit of adolescent violence to climb the social ladder or to make sure you stand out or take control of your situation in the school. Or some of the graphics made me think kind of River City Ransom, for anybody familiar with the classic beat 'em ups, the classic like old NES beat 'em ups, or the more recent reboot slash sequel to the River City Ransom games, River City Girls, where I think they flip the script and have the girls going out to fight and save their boyfriend. Kind of that kind of thing. At least the graphics, the anime art graphics of these cutscenes made me think that. Whereas the fighting is done in 3D environments all around your city and your school, which is what reminded me of Bully. So I'm wondering if the game might be kind of a little hybrid of those games, or at least a hybrid of those vibes and atmosphere. We have considerably fewer screenshots with this game. We do see character with their mother. Promise me in this new school you will be better than this. So the kid has our main character kid has a reputation as a troublemaker, and there you have it. You see, oh wow, straight up like martial arts flying kick. Although I can't tell if that blue patch at the lifted leg is supposed to be like, are his jeans supposed to be ripped or something, or is that just a part of the like a little bit of graphic tearing or something? Now, obviously biggest I'm not the biggest proponent of, oh my god, graphics must be absolutely immaculate, especially for indie games. I give a lot of passes when it comes to like little graphics like that. It just kind of stuck out that, hold on, his little flying kick situation has like a little bit of weirdness in the genes. We do see, fights out in the street going on. They do show a fair amount of the little city, little miniature soccer field here with a bunch of motorcycles. What looks like a classic, high school best friend situation. People getting all happy. Now this is part of a made in Indonesia bundle from Indonesia Studios. So that is some cool stuff to see here. I do think that this game likely gives a lot of light to the local culture and society and structure of its local setting. Gamecom team and Indie.io putting this out. Let's get into the description here to see what they're doing in Indonesia. So, about the game, you go to school, make new friends, beat old enemies up, solve world class problems like grades and girlfriends, and don't let your mom down by getting arrested or worse, flunking out. Now, I wonder, I know some countries put a lot, and I mean a lot of pressure on education and schooling and stuff like that, where students are straight up ranked against each other. Now, I don't know if that's how the case in Indonesia or in the city where this game is set, but I do know that some of that pressure does exist out there. So, when them saying that flunking out is worse than getting arrested, that's I don't know if that's a joke or if that's like an actual cultural aspect to the society and the expectations within the game's world. Troublemaker is an action adventure beat 'em up. Again, you had me thinking River City Ransom with some of the graphic styles about the most important and terrifying part of everyone's life, high school. As Booty, the new transfer to one of Indonesia's finest high schools, literally fight your way to the top of the social food chain through the school's annual student fighting tournament, aptly named Raise Your Gang. Inspired by beat 'em up classics, Troublemaker is all about smooth and over the top combat in Indonesia's greatest adolescent combat arena. Punch, kick, break, smash, or gently swing Booty's way up to the top with more than 30 iconic moves. Now I have to wonder where those moves came from. Like, what are they inspired from? You square up with your best friends and mortal enemies. There can be only one winner. So, making friends, Booty will not be fighting across the school alone. Paraka Cook, his gang, will be there to help him out. And I hope I pronounced that at least close to right. Rani, the class boss, will lend her smarts. Zainal, his might. And Bobby, well, Bobby's just Bobby. Apparently, they have to just front that, yes, we have a straight up comic foil character. Together, they'll face crushing mortal challenges of high school or, die trying. Spend time with Booty's girlfriend, increase his popularity at school, do homework with his friends, and learn what an over the top life could be like in a 21st century Indonesian high school. Now, obviously, I'm sure that the game and its storyline are dramatized because you're going to go a little over this, but I have to wonder, like, how close is this to some fringes of high school culture in the country? Because I know sometimes violence and like not necessarily not gang maybe not gangs in the way that we think of with substance running or stuff like that, but just kind of like kids hangout territory can be a little bit of a gang contention um, when it comes to a younger group. At least I, my naive mind, I want to hope that that is mainly what they're fighting over. So don't die. Beating up your peers is all fun and games, but patience is necessary. Kick flip into the fray and create personal combos by mixing up light, heavy, advanced, and sick move styles. Take things slow, let bruises heal, and take a stroll across the school to see the sights while gathering 20 different collectibles. So even though the gameplay does show that, they're favoring maybe middle ground octane combat sequences, because let's face it, you are still a bunch of high schoolers fighting. They do want you to be able to slow down and enjoy the game's setting a little bit too. With instead of instant healing after fights, it's like, all right, yeah, you got to go ahead and maybe not get broken bones or something like that. If they have more in-depth situations going on with that, that'd be kind of interesting to see. We do see what looks like different attacks that you can train by buying from trainers. So that's an interesting thing. They do show a bit of a mature content description for teenage violence, teenage fights, profanity. Okay, there are drugs involved. And suicide. So watch out for if those are sensitive topics for you or sensitive areas, maybe a little bit of content disclaimer here to aim for those. But that also has me wondering if that is actually one of the themes in here. Um I'm a little worried for. I feel like I might be a little worried for Bobby. If Bobby is just Bobby, and I'm like, oh no, don't tell me that if I were to go through this, that there's going to be some kind of a tragedy for Bobby. But anyway, that is this one. I know I said it, but the graphic style, specifically here with the characters drawn over with their portraits, it it just has me thinking River City Ransom or River City Girls for its visual style, even though the main part of the gameplay takes place in this 3D environment, the 3D third person view that had me kind of thinking, oh, is this like Bully? Which, again, is another game that I have not played, but they do show a fair amount of the fights. Now, the trailer, I'm a little on the fence here because the fights in the trailer don't show too much depth to it. But then again, maybe I'm just not as in tune with these kinds of games. Um, and I'm sure as you level up your skills and as you train in different special moves, you probably get a lot of different flashier things. But then there's also the story to the game, the story being this adventure through high school, through the ranks of this fighting tournament where it's not just the fights for the sake of the fights. The fights are supposed to drive the story and the characters. And honestly, the story and the characters do on at a glance here, just from the trailers and the screenshots, they do look interesting. I don't know about $20 interesting, but considering that we do have a 3D world and a 3D environment, the environments, they do look fine. The textures and everything might not be the most immaculate situation going on that you would see in games, but it is a $20 indie game, and even then, it does look like there's some attention paid to the environments. You see on the bulletin boards, you got different notices up there. They have some graphics applied to the classrooms, to the walls, and everything. I do like the environment. I feel like if I were to pick something up with this, the fight scenes might mostly be an afterthought for me, and I might actually just enjoy chilling in the city, or heck, maybe do a minimum violence run or something where, if you have to go through the tournament, or if there's different endings. In fact, do the tags show different endings? Beat 'em up, action RPG, education, JRPG. Okay, so maybe there's not multiple, like, quote unquote endings, except for, maybe a bad or a fail end or something like that. But the characters and the setting do give me a bit of curiosity here. So this actually, you know what? I'm actually going to do this right now. I don't know about the bundle, but I do think I want to go ahead and wish list this. If it goes on sale, it looks like a game that, while not my usual type of game that I go for, um, the characters and the setting do look interesting enough for me to give it a consideration if it were to go on sale. Of course, that is if somebody is looking at this and doesn't go for the whole bundle, because all four of these games are so different from each other that somebody watching this might see the bundle and be like, okay, yeah, I like that variety. While other people are like, I like only one of those types of games or types of atmospheres. And with that, our last game is Hello, Goodboy. Now, this one does touch into a bit more of a tragic situation. If anybody is familiar with Spiritfarer, which was an indie game that had come out a little while ago, then again, this game also came out 2023. But it deals with the afterlife and that kind of progress. I don't know how much of it is the character making peace with their afterlife, or if there's some other storyline going on, but it does give you a little bit of light adventure exploration kind of situation where you meet characters and help them along the way. We do see our main character with their dog, and this the visual style that they're giving is just, it screams heart and touching. Like they are really trying to pull at the heartstrings for this game. If that is your vibe, oh my gosh, absolutely, this would be your game to go for. $15 might be, depends on how much of the game you can really get out of the $15. Might be one, if I were to go for something like this, I might wait for it to go on a different sale. I think 15 is the full price, and it is on sale for some money off right now at the time of recording. It's a wonderful feeling, as if discovering that someone genuinely cares about you. So we do see, oh, that actually looks like some tasty ramen made by Owl Granny. Yeah, okay, we're just gonna call her Owl Granny in a straight up, mason jar as a glass. Straight, that's some full blown countryside stuff right there. We've got a lumberjack out here. People were relying me on me and I failed them. So it looks like you do meet other people in this afterlife and are dealing with that, like they're dealing with their traumas or their regrets. So I'm wondering how close this might actually be to the themes of Spiritfarer, where through helping them out, you are getting into uh helping people come to peace and cross over, and maybe that is what brings your character to peace. Anyway, we should look into the description for this one. Hello, Goodboy is a heartwarming, wholesome adventure featuring Aiko, a boy new to the afterlife. With no memory of what brought him to the world beyond, he must rely on Coco, a strangely familiar dog who will help him solve the mysteries of this new existence. So, based on the description here, it seems like Coco is familiar to the boy, but maybe not exactly the same as the dog that the boy would have known initially. Um, or maybe it was a family dog that had passed away when the boy was much younger, which is why it's familiar, but maybe not somebody that was alongside the boy in their life. Maybe this is speculation just based on the wording. Journey through unknown yet familiar places, meeting fellow souls on their own adventures through the afterlife. Pay it forward with generous favors for them and try to figure out just who Aiko or just why Aiko landed in the land beyond to begin with. However, mind the time, there's only so much of it, so it looks like you are on a time limit. It is a wholesome experience. You craft a personal fairy tale atmosphere and a heartwarming story as Aiko and Coco make their way through the afterlife, unravel mysteries, and collect bundles of joy. Give endless belly rubs to Coco along the way. Okay, if anyone out there is a dog lover, this game might have just been sold to you with the promise of belly rubs. Tell me I'm wrong. A cast of unique characters. You befriend the dozens of denizens in the afterlife, like a lonely child, an anxious couple, an overworked lumberjack, and more. Okay, we even saw a couple of those in those screenshots and the trailer. Everyone has a story to tell and a task Aiko can help with. After you help them through their problems, break out the comfort food and relax together. They sounds like they lean into the whole sharing a meal together as a way of bonding with people, which I do agree with. But you only have so much time. Decide who you spend time with, as visiting some will prevent you from making relationships with others, and discover how your choices will affect Aiko's story through multiple endings. Multiple endings. That makes it seem like hopefully there's some replayability to it. Coco is the closest friend in the afterlife anyone could ask for. Also, the best of boys. His nose, combined with Aiko's fixing skills, will be key to discovering the metaphysical mysteries found around the world beyond. Pamper him with belly rubs and playing with toys to keep his good boyometer filled. Something like a good boyometer as an actual game mechanic is just. If anybody out there is a fan of games with the cozy vibe, this sounds like something. If you can take these kinds of afterlife and tragic tales and stuff. Now, something that the description did fail to mention was these shadowy blobs that seem to be covering the environment. But helping the people seems to be the way to clear them. So it seems just to be a physical representation of the places you're supposed to go and things you're supposed to interact with to go ahead and help other characters with their trauma, their tasks, their regrets, and whatever kind of situation they are dealing with in the afterlife, which will hopefully help lead your character's story into wherever it is that they're supposed to go. And especially with the whole multiple endings thing going on, um, maybe the different endings have to do with who you help, how you help them, and it does give a little bit of a kind of maybe not as pandering as Dora the Explorer, but it does seem to have a bit of childlike that childlike wonder to it that doesn't necessarily get to be too deep where only an adult audience should go for it, but this does seem like something that a younger audience may also appreciate, depending on its intensity, its vibes with the whole afterlife situation. Because you are dealing with the afterlife, which means that our main character has passed away, and through their journey, I'm sure the storyline revolves in them coming to terms with their passing and moving on. Uh, Hopefully it doesn't get too dark. I do kind of feel for the story because I have played a fair chunk of Spiritfarer, and that game did actually have me in tears for a couple of the character scenes. But that said, the game does look like it absolutely has some merit here in an artistic and a narrative perspective. And with that, I think it's time we go ahead and look at this. Now, this is a review primarily of the bundle, the developed in Indonesia bundle. Like I said at the beginning of this video and this cast, last week I gave a pretty harsh perspective of the insane bundle on the Switch based on the quality of the games that were being put out, even for that $2 price tag for a stack of 21 games. It seemed pretty clear that that $2 bundle price tag was more of it looked like more of a means of trying to push the sales numbers for the game, because let's face it, most of those games almost nobody's going to be buying at their full price. This, however, I could see each and every one of these games being worth their full price. The $6 games look like I would easily shell 15 or $20 for them. So the fact that $6 is in fact their full price tells me that okay, those developers, maybe there is actually a lot cut back from those games content wise or narrative or art wise, but the games on their surface from their pages do look like they're worth more. Then we have Troublemaker, which the 3D graphics are probably going to be more expensive to produce. They put a lot of care into, or it looks like they put a bit into the story and the characters to get to know them. So, like I said, with the comparison of Bully, I know Bully is another one of those like open world sandbox kind of situations in that school setting, but Bully being a larger AAA production I imagine that one would have more characters and more variety of situations and settings to work with. Whereas Troublemaker, made by an indie studio for the $20 price tag, again, something that I would personally wait to go on sale, just because I don't know if I would spend enough time on the game to really get that much out of it. But it does look like for players who enjoy those kinds of games, $20 looks like a fair price tag for that. Then Hello Goodboy for 15, which again is, I believe that is one of the games that is on sale right now. Yes, it is on sale for the 35% off, 974. The other games, was Troublemaker on sale? Is that why the bundle is? No, the Troublemaker is actually not on sale for that one. But I think now, again, all of these games look like they are worth the value. They are presented well. Their screenshots and trailers show you a little bit of the gameplay and the story and the mechanics without giving too much away. Like, I feel like the trailers and screenshots are enough to spark curiosity without being a definitive. No, I've basically seen what I think it would be the entire game. I do think all of the games individually are worth their price. Right now, the bundle is purchasable for 30.51. I'm not sure if the price is going to go up if because I know the Hello Good Boy is on sale for 35%, but if all the others are full price, it does seem like they would have kept this uh possibly pushed up a little higher if the Hello Good Boy, but still discounted combined. The thing I see is that maybe Anuchard and A Day Without Me, because we're judging this by the bundle. All of the games are individually fantastic looking, but A Day Without Me and Anuchard appear to be the only ones that I would think thematically go together with that isometric exploration and mystery and all of that going on. But even then, those two are still a little bit different. But because of their price and their visual style, it seems like those two go together. Troublemaker and Hello Good Boy feel like a little bit of a departure from that. Troublemaker more than Hello Good Boy. I could see Hello Good Boy fitting in with the other two. Troublemaker just feels like such a standout where I do understand the value of having a variety of content in a bundle so that, if people want this kind of thing, they can go ahead and get that variety packaged together in one little in one unit for a discounted price. Although I feel like because of the disconnect in how Hello Good Boy to a lesser extent, but Troublemaker to a much greater extent, just don't seem to fit together thematically with what we have going on here. Now, developed in Indonesia means that this is bundled based on the locality of the studios. So there is still something tying them together. It's just from the consumer and a gamer perspective where, different people have different tastes. I think because of that, I'm going to go ahead and rate this bundle a 7 out of 10. Um, if Troublemaker was dropped from this and it was just the other three, I think I would go ahead and give the bundle a 9. But this is not, let me be clear, it is not a mark against the games. Like I said, all four of these games look to be interesting in their own right. They look like they would all be things that I would consider purchasing myself. And I would advise for people, if I know somebody's tastes in games, I would say, hey, you liked these things that I have seen or I have experienced. Have you seen maybe these indie titles to give a shot? I would recommend these, or at least recommend looking at the games. It's just the bundle seems a little disconnected on its themes. Now, most, if not all four of these are also available in other bundles. So if you're out there looking for something, trying to find a good value, go ahead and see what other bundles these games are a part of. Or if all four of these games do look like something that you would personally play and spend time with and get the value out of, by all means, that 7 out of 10 is not a negative rating, but far from it. It is still positive. It's just a little bit of points bumped off in my head and my arbitrary reasoning for the fact that there's a little bit of a thematic disconnect going on here. I did briefly look at some of the other bundles because the first thing that led me to this was seeing Hello Good Boy and seeing what bundles it was a part of. Some of the other bundles seemed more thematically consistent, but I wanted to go ahead and look at this one to see like these games they look like they offered a little more variety, and there's like I said, there's the upside and the downside to having that kind of variety packaged together in a bundle. So with you guys as the consumers out there, I highly encourage people to make their own judgments, make their own advisements. But again, like I said, I believe each of these games does a well enough job in presenting themselves to their desired customer base. Um, the bundle, I believe this bundle would have value to people who like that kind of variety and all those varied different experiences, because I know that there are gamers out there who like to see a lot of different things no matter the style or the feel of the game. But then there are those who they only like certain kinds of games. And just like any other form of media, whether it's books, movies, comics, TV shows, anything of those sorts, there are both kinds of people. Some people like a more of a variety, some people like a more curated, catered thing to a specific niche. And both are valid takes. If anybody has played any or even all of these, if anybody's out there that's done that, let me know what you thought, or even if you haven't, let me know what you think down below. If these are games that were completely off your radar, if we showed you something you like, hey, maybe you'll get a good time out of one or more of these. With that, the bundle, again, I'm rating this 7 out of 10. 3051 with the discounted price of being bundled together does seem like a fair value for these. Um, and again, with the games, it does seem like each of them has their own motif. A Day Without Me isn't like too much like other things I've played. Anuchard just kind of screamed Bastion slash Legend of Zelda to me. Troublemaker had the feel of River City Ransom and Bully. just based on what I've seen, not even games that I've necessarily played, but it seems distinct to the kind of games that those players might enjoy. And then Hello Good Boy, see it thematically and narratively, it feels like Spiritfarer while being more along the lines of a cozy adventure mechanically, so maybe not as grindy as Spiritfarer with its resource gathering. So with that, like I said, 7 out of 10 for the thing. Each of these games looks like something I'd recommend to people depending on their tastes. So let me know what you think, and we will see you next week when we look at probably a much more famous and popular game bundle.